The snow fell softly that December evening as Margaret Walsh locked up her small bookshop on Maple Street. At 58, she'd learned to appreciate the quiet rhythm of her days, the familiar customers, the smell of old books, the predictable comfort of her routine. She was walking home when she noticed them. A man in his 30s sat on the steps of the shuttered cafe next door, holding a little girl bundled in a pink coat. The child couldn't have been more than 3, with golden curls peeking from her hood. They looked lost, tired, and cold. Margaret paused. Her practical side told her to keep walking, but her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "When you can help, you help." "Excuse me," she said gently. "Are you two all right?" The man looked up, his brown eyes showing both embarrassment and relief. "We're okay, thank you. Just waiting for our hotel to sort out a booking issue. The pipes burst, and they're full now." The little girl shivered, and Margaret's heart made the decision for her. "That won't do on a night like this. I have a guest room. It's nothing fancy, but it's warm and clean. You're welcome to stay until morning." The man hesitated, clearly weighing his options and his pride. "I couldn't impose. You'd be doing me a favor, honestly," Margaret said with a small smile. "My daughter's in Seattle, and my house feels too empty these days." "I'm Margaret. Daniel," he said, standing up. "And this is Emma. If you're sure—" "I'm sure." The walk to Margaret's cottage took 10 minutes. Inside, she showed them to the guest room, gave Emma a warm bath, and made grilled cheese sandwiches, simple food that Emma devoured with the appetite of an exhausted child. Over chamomile tea, after Emma had fallen asleep on the couch, Daniel's story emerged in quiet pieces. He was a widower. His wife had passed 2 years ago. He'd been traveling for a new job starting Monday, and the hotel mix-up had left them stranded. "I'm sorry," Margaret said simply. "Losing someone you love. That changes everything." Daniel nodded, grateful she didn't offer empty platitudes. "You learn to carry it differently." For Emma's sake, they talked until nearly midnight, about parenthood, about loss, about starting over. Margaret found herself sharing things she rarely spoke about. Her divorce 20 years ago, the loneliness that sometimes crept in, the small joys she'd learned to treasure. The next morning, Margaret made pancakes. Emma giggled as the batter sizzled, and for a moment, the kitchen felt alive again. As they prepared to leave, Daniel took Margaret's hand. "Thank you, not just for the room, but for treating us like people, not problems." "You take care of that sweet girl," Margaret said, her eyes misty. She watched them walk down the snowy path, then returned to her routine. Monday morning brought the usual, opening the shop, brewing coffee, shelving new arrivals. At 10 o'clock, her phone rang. It was corporate headquarters. "Ms. Walsh, this is Jennifer from HR. Just confirming, the new regional CEO will be visiting your location at 2 this afternoon for introductions. Please have your quarterly reports ready." Margaret's stomach tightened. The company had been purchased 6 months ago, and this new CEO was known for making changes. She'd heard he was young, ambitious, aggressive. Several stores had already been closed for optimization. At precisely 2 o'clock, the bell above the door chimed. Margaret looked up from her register and froze. Daniel stood in the doorway wearing a suit, his expression equally shocked. "Margaret? You're the CEO?" For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. Then Daniel's face softened into a familiar smile. "I suppose I should have mentioned what my new job was." They sat in her small office, the tension slowly dissolving into something else: recognition, understanding, connection. "I looked at your store's numbers this morning," Daniel admitted. "On paper, this location doesn't make sense. The profit margin is too low, the foot traffic declining. My advisors recommended closure." Margaret's heart sank, but she lifted her chin. "I understand. Business is business. Let me finish," Daniel said gently. "Then I remembered Saturday night. The woman who saw 2 strangers and offered shelter, who made my daughter laugh for the first time in weeks, who listened without judgment." He pulled out a folder. "These numbers don't show what you've built here. I did some research yesterday. You host reading groups for seniors. You give books to teachers who can't afford them. You've created something that matters to this community." "That doesn't pay the bills," Margaret said quietly. "No? but it reminded me why I took this job. My wife and I used to talk about business differently, about building things that matter, not just things that profit. I'd forgotten that until Saturday night. He slid a paper across the desk. I'm proposing a community partnership program. Your store becomes a pilot. We'll improve your online presence, streamline inventory, but keep your community programs. If it works here, we'll expand it company-wide. Margaret's hands trembled as she read the proposal. Why would you do this? Daniel's eyes were warm. Because kindness should be rewarded, not punished. Because Emma asked me this morning when we could visit the pancake lady again. Because sometimes the right decision isn't the one that looks best on a spreadsheet. 6 months later, Margaret's bookshop was thriving. The community programs had attracted new customers, and the online expansion had brought unexpected revenue. But what Margaret treasured most were the Sunday dinners. Daniel and Emma had become regular visitors, filling her home with laughter and life. Emma called her Aunt Maggie now, and Margaret had taught her to love stories the way she'd once taught her own daughter. One evening, as Emma slept upstairs and Margaret and Daniel sat with coffee, he said, I never thanked you properly. For what? You saved my store? For showing me that success isn't just about the bottom line. It's about the lives we touch along the way. Margaret smiled, thinking about the path that had brought them here, a snowy night, a moment of kindness, a choice to see people instead of problems. We all need reminding sometimes, she said softly, that the best things in life can't be measured on a balance sheet. Outside, snow began to fall again, gentle and quiet, covering the world in grace.